Yes, the thing here and the topic today is to building an efficient microcycle to improve performance. As Jan said before, this will be very handball targeted, but you could also translate this to other sports as well. So my name is Pontus Axell, and I'm a performance coach for the BK Häcken women's first team in football. I am also a coach educator at the Swedish Handball Federation and on the International Handball Federation, where I'm mostly teaching physical performance within the sector or department. I have previously worked in handball for almost 13 years now, and been working in both club and schools, and recently 5 years I've been working within the federation with physical performance and education. So I have been working broadly between coaches and also to players. So I'm really happy to be here and spoke about something that I'm really that I am really passionate about. So before we start today, I just want to briefly describe what is a microcycle. A microcycle is a weekly plan. This is something that we're going to dive deeper into today. But there is also two more aspects that I think it's very important that you know more about. It is the microcycle, which is to me it's more of an annual plan. Which it could cover a whole season or a whole year, and it's more like an abstract plan of what you should focus on different sections within the season. And also you got a mesocycle, which is more a session plan or session to another session. But the thing we're gonna dive deeper into today is the microcycle, which is more the weekly plan, or how you can be more efficient with that when you're working with planning, but also integrated to XPS. And what I think about when I'm trying to explain being more efficient within the week or the season is more a framework for just handball fitness, or how we can be more efficient when we are practicing that during the week in terms of physical targets. So in the earlier on, when handball training was trained, or as a culture thing here, or our legacy in Sweden, is that physical training often has been an isolated part. It has been someone who's come in and basically make everyone puke and make everyone tired, and then they don't see her or him for a couple of weeks or month. Then they are coming back on the preseason, and then they make everybody puke again. So instead, by doing that, we want to integrate the physical part every day within our handball, and go away from that type of isolated things. We're just gonna do that, but we're gonna do it in combo with our handball. So basically, we want to switch that to integrate all this part within our sport. So that's why we want to. I'm going to speak a lot of the term like starting from the sport. So in that we got different qualities. We got physical training, we got psychology, we got analysis, technique, tactic, and also we got medicine. Everything of this should be integrated, not trained isolated by themselves. And how we do that, I'm going to dive into later on. And what it's like starts from, it's from the tactical periodization, which is more common in football, which is a term called from Raymond Verheijen. It's explained like this. So you get tactical periodization, according to Raymond Verheijen, is a training method where all the training is based on the demands of the game, with a particular focus on tactics as the starting point, And Verheyen argues that football is a tactical game, and therefore all other aspects of performance, like physical, technical, psychological, must be trained in a tactical context. And what we mean about that is that we want to create handball sessions that target different physical qualities every day. So, and we also start from the tactical way of play that the coach want to have. So instead, by having something like I have in my own career, where the physical coach was someone who stepped in after the session, and the session were not linked to the handball session. So in that kind of way that the coaches want to play, in that kind of way, we want to stimulate the physical qualities. So if we go down to the other ones, we got tactics, starting and governing everything we do. We got specific training through handball-based formats, which could mean areas, rules, opponents, and so on. And we start with behaviors from the sport and not the physical tests. So, for example, it had also been in Sweden that the physical test results dictate what you should do on the weekly plan. We want to do a reverse thing here. Instead, we looked at how the players behave within the game, and then we adding the physical qualities or the physical test to see how they are cope with the demands of the game, not the opposite direction that we make one do, for example, a yo test or a Cooper test, and we see that okay, they are not performing. We need to do that. We need to do this. Instead, we see at the game and see how they are behaving in the game. And the third one is handball specific law must occur within handball radius situation. I have already mentioned that, but I'm going to explain that later on. We got a different focus on a different day. So one focus, for example, match day -2 could be fast breaks with high intensity runs or sprint. So we combine similar things in handball with the physical targets, not the opposite ones. And we built our periodization model in match days. So MD means match days, and if we do match day +2, we get 2 days after the match days. And if we have MD -2, we get 2 days before match days. So that is the more the common term that I want everyone to know when we dive deeper into this section. And also the last part here is that we want to throw away the old periodization models from, for example, Bompa or Rakushansky, where we're having blocks when we are trained. Instead, we have a whole week that we target different qualities, and also that type of week. It's not the same that we have the week during the preseason, but we work weekly with different parts instead of one block. For example, January, block this, February, block this. I hope you get more when we are explaining later on. So just to briefly explain that different tactical models or dispositions will form the microcycle, or simply means that different kind of play will affect the content of the microcycle. So, for example, if you have a coach that wants to place the Magdeburg way, which emphasizes duels, attacks with smaller but highly explosive players, that is a huge difference if we have, for example, the Hungary play or Hungary style, where we're playing a lot of crossovers with the emphasis on a shooting power. For example, you as an offensive player trying to bind the defensive player and then crossover, and then they go over and boom, shoots. So this is a different type of physical load if you have this types of play. And also you got a third one. Sorry for all this text here, but it's a 7 versus 6 setup where you decreasing the overall contacts and duels, which also affects the physical outcomes. And for example, you also get teams that are switching between those threes. And there are a lot of more tactics, but this is just a brief explanation for those who are not familiar to handball play. And this will also affect the microcycle content, of course. So this is the more crispy part. This is my example of a more microcycle, which also explain what you are working with during each different days. So for example, you get the match day here, which you play on a big pitch, of course. But the most important things here in terms of physical loading is that those player that plays less than 20 minutes should be able or are like mandatory to do top-ups. So we get the high speed runs targeted on that day, and then we can make them rest on match day +1 because we have coaches that want to prepare the analysis part, and we also got mentally stressed players who want to rest, so we can be able to push them harder on match day +2. So that's why I have this option that you can rest here. And the match day +2, we got to focus on axle diesel and contacts and collisions, which is one aspect of physical load for handball players. We only play on half of the pitch with many actions during the play. We play 75 to 90 minutes handball, and we link that with lower body strength because when we're doing axle and diesels, it's a lot of stress on the lower body. That was we want to target that even more when we're practicing. And that one, we can make sure that we're moving on to the match day +3. We can work with another target that is heart rate, and you play a longer game. You want to focus on endurance capacity. So we're playing on a big pitch here. We focus on high speed runs, which is a crucial thing in times of transition and fast breaks in handball. And we link that with an high intensity intervals or critical speed intervals, which is a difference between what you're targeting during handball. So for example, if you have a coach that are really, really sharp in terms of higher intensity during the play, which is the outcome, we know that if we push them harder after with more high intensity runs, it will likely kill them. So that's why we increasing medium intensity intervals or critical speed, since we know that conditioning is elevated by volume and intensity. And if we're targeting the right one, intensity, we need more volume in terms of raising that capacity. So that's why, and we're going to dive into the next session, how we work with intensity, since we know that that our players are really, really, really bad on pacing. So we need to make sure that they are targeting the right intensity. And the next day we got upper body strength. So we rest with the lower body, and we working on shoulders, back, and core, which we know is crucial for handball. And then we switch to match day -2. We got a speed focus. So it could be that we need to do maximum speed isolated. It depends if the coach plays a good play with a lot of good fast breaks with high quality, and we see that they are really, really good on ticking those speed boxes. Then we don't do maximum speed, but we need to have that floating when we are speaking about the session. And we link that with full body power. So we do power-oriented exercises like med ball throw, resistant running, plyos, snatches, and so on. So we get more of the more speed-orientated stuff that we are linking with. And on the match day -1 is more preparation. I generally don't have any physical things inside there, more like reaction speed priming, more like mental priming. And on match day we perform again. So this is a cycle, and this cycle could be hugely different between if we have a coach that is playing a certain tactical way and the other coach is playing another way. We need to be very, very sharp on what type of tactical dispositions that coach wants to emphasize. But to summarize all this, how do we make sure that this is the right load every day? And since we don't have the local positioning system, which is comparable to GPS in, for example, a football, this is the target if we have those type of things. But since many of our coaches don't have that, we can just use wellness or sessions RPE that you also could have within the XPS, which is very, very easy to set up and customize, which we're going to show here later on. So, and also this one is very, very crucial that you have a physical coach that have a basic understanding of the sport. Otherwise, this will be very, very hard to just communicate in different areas and so on, and how you should be able to hit those targets during the week. So this is the way we can colorize our intensity, and also helpful for the players to understand what type of intensity every day has. So it's very crucial that we are teaching them what type of intensity that is more suitable for that a day, and how they are perceiving the right intensity. So in terms of youth players, we generally need to teach them what is the ceiling and what is the middle and what is the low. So this is not so accurate, I think, if you have younger players under 16 and so that one you need to more teach them which type of intensity you have all the way. But with older players, it's very, very accurate, and I think it's very good to create awareness of different intensity or create the buy-in within the week. And this is the 5 targets that we want to hit during the week, we should have for each day, of course. So, for example, maximum strength, we have that on Tuesday. On Thursday, we got a focus on top speed and power, and change of direction is on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we have aerobic capacity. And this is the weekly plan. I'm going to show this is more pedagogical way in XPS later on. But just to make sure, I didn't say that in the slide before. It's that we want to have so much time we can with the ball during the session. We don't want to have things or drills without the ball when we are on the court. That's why we are also integrated the pre-activation within every session. I'm going to show that later on when we're trying to work with different exercises that are taking from the screening and from the testing. So we got 2 different links. One is pre-activation before and one is after. So we can just make sure that we are doing as much time as possible with the ball on the court. So, and I'm going to show this later on XPS, but the crucial part that I'm speaking about before, and you could also read that in the blog, is this one. It's a spreadsheet from Excel where you can integrate 2 type of testing in order to get more precise or be more clear when you are prescribing intervals based off their own capacity, but also based off targeting those type of intensity you want to have throughout the week. So basically, you put in your name here. You're doing one test with maximum aerobic speed. You do that 1,600 meters. You put in the second here, which is very easy. You could also do the 6 minutes test, but it's more easy if you're having a straight fixed meters. comparable to have 6 minutes, you need to stop on each point and then calculate every time. So it's more easy to just run 1,600 meters. Then you combine that with a maximum sprint test. So you can also do sprinting, maximum sprinting speed, for example, over 40 meters. But since we have testing within our schools and within our camps in Swedish Handball Federation, we do 10, 20, and 30 meters. It's much easier to just take those results than doing new tests over and over again. So we do the time between 20 and 30. We get a time like this, and then the spreadsheet automatically calculate this into the kilometers per hour. And since we know that handball players reaching their top speed on average on 27.5 meters, we can make sure that this is pretty accurate in terms of getting the maximum sprinting speed. Not so accurate if you have a like a football player who's reaching that top speed a lot of later on compared to handball. But if you type in this, you get an anaerobic sprint reserve, which also gives you in the bar here an estimation of which type of fiber type this player is. And we know that a speed player or a player with a lot of 2X fibers would struggle with or cope with a huge volume throughout the week in training. So if you type in those results and you see that the orange bar here is big and the blue is small, you can see that this fiber type is probably an explosive one, or in the opposite way, that you can have a player with a lot of blue bars, which is more like an endurance player, which also can give you insight that they will probably struggle with a lot of sprinting. So this is a thing that you can analyze with your coach during the week and be more sharp when you're targeting different individuals' volume. But if you type in this, you get different speeds here based off the individual work. So you can see here for the next example, we want to emphasize the yellow intensity on 15 work, 15 rest. You see this player has 75 meters. And if they're doing a COD, which they're doing inside a handball pitch because it's only 40 meters, it will be 70 meters in total. So in the next section here, you can see that we got 3 different players who's running the same intervals, but they got more accurate way of running. We know that they are running based off their own capacity, and they are probably hitting the more intensity that we want to emphasize. And if we take an example from football here, we got 15 work, 45 rest, times 8. You see that this is an example from the academy. Sorry with this one. Where we only got half of the pitch to practice on, which means that during that day we want also to emphasize high speed runs, which was like impossible if we only have half of the pitch. So after the session, I make them run 15 work 45 times 8, this one, and we can make sure that they are working on their targeting for the session, but also as an individuals of their own capacity. So we're not killing them, making everyone run at the same distance on the same time and so on. And match day -2, we get speed and power, same procedure here. I'm going to show you later on. Match day -1, same procedure. And briefly, lastly, before we go into the calendar, how can we monitor all this without expensive equipment like LPS or a big bag full of money? The easy one in XPS is to just send this out to the players. It's a session RPE score where it is all collected within XPS, which is very easy way. The players just go into the app, they put in the time they are working and the intensity scores that they are perceiving. So, for example, if we take a match day +3, we want to emphasize endurance, we want the players to perceive at least an 8, but most likely a 9 or a 10 maybe. But if we got a player who is typing in a 5 or a 4, we need to just re-evaluate our own session or make it more efficient in terms of playing, or we can just top up them with a different things. Since we know that the style of play is also a complex play, we cannot hit everything at all the same time. So we need to make sure that every position and every individual targeting the same intensities. And that's why we need to be sharper when we are planning our sessions as well, when we have the ball with us. And this is the wellness and readiness where you can type in. So this is the day after. So for example, match day +3, we want to give them more load. We want to have them yellow, but if someone is red, then we need to just speak with the staff and have a good communication. And then we make some adjustments for this player that perceived last day session very, very hard. This could also be automatically calculated in XPS, so you don't need to do anything. You just make them fulfill every formula, and then they automatically update it in XPS. So if you have a player that is collecting all the sessions RPE and not missing a single time, because if they are missing, it will be a score of 0 and will be completely wasted all the things you are done. You could have a session called or a dashboard called acute chronic workload ratio, which describes load over time. And this is one player from the Häcken's Youth 19 girls who was a big fish in a small pond, and then she moved up to the under 21 and became a small fish in a very, very, very big pond. So, for example, you can see here that this type of bars describes overload and underload, överträning and underträning in Swedish. So we can see that she is between those two, which is very good. But when she moved up to the under 21, she became not so involved and not so important anymore, and then the load drops. So this was a very important aspect for us as coaches to just speak about, okay, how can we increase the participation during the football session, but also how could we top up her so she do not lose fitness during that time, which is also crucial for her own development. So lastly but not least, the heart rate during handball, which is also a factor of internal load. So this is from small-sided games. You got a same position but different response. So here's also an aspect why you need top-ups. So you got two different players, and in addition to that, we know that if we want to target endurance capacity, we generally need to have at least 10 minutes in the red zone, but more likely 15 minutes, maximum 20, in order to stimulate all those things within the body to be better on endurance. And if you have players who have this type of differences when you are working with the polar system, we also need to make sure that we are creating better drills, but also maybe some top-ups for her or for him. So this could also be that the player to the right side is better on pacing. She could be better on handball, but she could also be the left-hand side could also be worse on handball. So she has to work a lot with a lot of actions, a lot of running. So here is another thing that we need to live tracking, and then we need to make some adjustments after the session. So everything we do has a plan, but we need to be very agile when we are prescribing sessions as well. And lastly but not least, I want to show this picture from my excellent colleague, Rickard Engström, who is working on the Swedish Football Federation. He's showing this picture of two different players, which is combining the extern and the intern load. So we know that the player has a better physical qualities, that are better prepared for the demands of the sport. It could be strength, it could be endurance, it could be plyos, and so on. We know they are better to just cope with the external load. So if a player perceives a 6 on the session's RPE and another player perceive an 8, they could have exactly the same external load, which is very important aspect to bring with us when we are practicing. We may need to make them more robust and more resilient of handball and of sport as well. And this is some example that we can show from Power BI, when you can just integrate all your GPS data, for those of you that have that working. So we have StatSports here in Häcken, and I just take all this, download all this data, and I put it into Power BI to get more efficient when I prescribe it to players and also to coaches. So here you can see from Matchday +3 when we got different targets. This is his total distance, and this is high speed run targets. This is sprint distance targets. So this is total distance per minute. Is more a score of intensity. And you see here that some players don't reach this level that we have set up, and some of the players reach a lot of above that. So we need to be very agile again. So to the next session, maybe we need to deload some players, but also increasing the load on other players. So this is also a way to be more agile when we are practicing and planning all the stuff that we are doing. So lastly but not least, how to integrate and customize your model into XPS. So this is an example from the calendar that I have created based off the presentation that I had during the last half an hour here. So this is the team sessions we can integrate. If I put on my players here, I can just push them, and I have done some individual prep for them based off the Matchday +2, +3, -2, and also the sessions here. So if I push this again, the sessions move away. This is the team sessions, and this is the individual sessions. And in order to be more efficient, you can just create your own training programs here first, and you can see the folders here that I have created before. So this is for Halby women's team and so on. This is another player. If you go into this one and you got player from the women's first team in Häcken, I got different folders for different focus on the annual plan. So for example, if you do the February to April, we have a focus on maximum strength. You can press on Ivy here. She got different programs prepared for me. So if I have Ivy on this one that we have Matchday +2, if she were a handball player, I just drag and copy and paste. So I need to push Victor. I can think that Ivy is Victor, and I take the program, copy paste, and it will be ready like this. So I don't need to plan every session every time. I just have a plan here. Then I copy and paste on different sections and different targets throughout the week. So if we go into Victor, you can see the Matchday +3 here, +2. I can see this on this one, but it's not so pedagogical. I could also show this on the telephone or the cell phone. So I'm going to open it up. Be with me. Let's pray that the screen works. So I just show you how it is integrated within the app. So you can show when you are coming in here. This is Swedish. Sorry about this one, but I can make sure that I found my player here. So I show you how it works when the players are viewing the sessions. So he will come in here, Victor, and you see the dots here, which is a sign that there are session here. So Victor can push on the 16th of June, and he can go in. So this is the session today from that he will see. He is curious about what should I do on the pre-activation. He has his different part here. It's focus on mobility and core exercises. So for example, I can do a demo here. I show the drills. He move out on a Superman position and hold there. And if I go back, I can see maybe he is curious about what the session is today. He can see here that there are this type of plan for the match day +2. So for example, he got this is the notes from the coach. He will not see this. He could also see the emphasis of today's session, which I have right in here, as we spoke about before. But he's more curious about what is chaos rondo. So here's a picture, but it's also an animation that you can choose and look at when you're coach. So this is some kind of rondo that you are playing and creating awareness and trying to move on smaller spaces without body contact, so you can add it later on. The coaches played a ball in, and yeah, they need to complete a number of passes in order to get a point, and the yellow ones is chasers. Maybe it's also interesting what play on one side is. So this is emphasizing to create more actions and create duels and Axell decels. So the players are not allowed to step outside the 9 meters line, which make it more easier for them to have duels and contacts. And they are basically playing three against 3. You could also again play 3 against 2, 2 against 3, and so on. Just some brief example. This do not have any focus on a tactical intentions. It is a brief example of everything. But let's move on here. You can just work on handball endurance. You see here, you get an 3 zones handball. First of all, it's also an animation. It's the same here. You're trying to have the ball as much as possible. You're trying to pass your friends without the white one is taking the ball, and it's you play to the other zone when you have completed a number of passes. So it's a way of warm up before you go into other things in the handball. You also got offside handball, which is a good way of prescribing endurance. It's the one that you're playing and you score a goal. The goalkeeper throws out the ball. You are not allowed to play the ball passing those yellow cones. The ball needs to be played within the cones to the player, as you see here. So from here position, the player here is not allowed to play all the way down here. The ball needs to be played here and not passing those 2 lines, then you get offside. It's just an example of how you can work with different decision making and be able to play with the ball as much as possible and do not do all the isolated stuff. And then we linked out with the conditioning card individual, as you can see here. You could also type in the maximum heart rate, which the player will have an estimation of. If they have the maximum heart rate registered within XPS, then they will see a number here with 85% of the maximum heart rate. So this is the full week. I will go further on to the final and last section. It's a very, very brief one about benchmarking. We spoke about it on the blog, and you can just read a lot of it. But I think it's very important to state that benchmarking is not a thing that uh, if you are not prepared, you will not be a good player. It's more an easy thing for player and for coaches to just be more aware of like where they are, and be more precise in describing how fast is fast and how good is like good. Because if I just tell them that you should be faster, they are gonna ask, okay, how fast is fast? And we also know that a lot of players who are red in the reference data, they are gonna struggling to become a good player. But if a player are like yellow or like green, they have a lot of more chances to be a better handball player. So it's more like an creating some motivation for the players to practicing more by themselves and be more sharper when they are practicing the sessions that we are describing. So this is the way that we have created in XPS for Swedish Handball Federation. It's colorized again because we think that it's very helpful for the players to understand where they are in order to get more awareness. So you can see you can create those type of spiders when it's very easy for the players to see, okay, for example, here, my 10 meters time and my 20 minutes time is not that good, and neither my 30 minutes time. I need to work more on my sprinting speed. And then they can just contact the coach and question, how do I do with this type of things? You could also go by doing this dashboard that I shown you before by readiness and wellness formulas. But you could also do this type of following a player over a longer period of a time. So you can create those type of diagrams, which is more a brief overview of how the players develop over a long time, which is very, very important for us because we are testing them for basically 15 years old up to 20. And lastly, but not least, you can also summary stuff that you have spoke about during the IDP talks in handball. When you have a meeting with a coach, you speak about things that you want to develop, and you can just save it for later on, because we're also switching coaches from they are 15 up to 20, 21, 20, 22. So we need to make sure that it is saved somewhere else. I think I went over time a bit. I'm sorry about that. I hope that you are not sleeping. And thanks for your time here. If you have any questions or thoughts, just reach out to me. I have my email here. I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, or X. I am not on TikTok or Snapchat, but I am here anyway. So yeah, basically that was it. Thanks for your time. I can read it to everyone as well. As a girl or a woman coach, I usually have the more loaded physical practices, transitions, and fast break related. In the middle of the week, the most far from the next game, match day -3, and at the same time, the most far from the previous game. Since we don't practice every day, any ideas on how to improve the recovery process on match day -2 practice, since we don't practice in match day -1? Really good questions. I think this is a common problem that we also have because we don't have that type of structure that I just showing you. We also played like Sunday and Thursday, and then we will want to like integrate all these stuff. So the easiest like answer on this one is that we will be more careful when we are like loading them on match day +3. So basically the hard day would not be that hard, because then we're gonna kill them if we want to play more power oriented on match day -2. So basically that's my answer. But I would just make sure that this is the structure that we don't have throughout the the season. We just to make sure that we have different sections throughout the month or like weeks that we can load them optimally. But I would rather say that if we get 2 or 3 weeks like here, that is not a problem. We just want to be careful on the match day minus 3. Hope that was a okay answer. I'm just talking. A good thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I have a question, Pontus, actually from outside the webinar. Since you've been involved with both sports, what do you think is the main difference between football and handball? Since we have some football coaches here on the webinar, what would you say is the main difference in your work overall that you would see as the most obvious one?
Really great question. I think a lot of coaches has recently asked me that one. I think if in terms of physical qualities, we know that the football is running a lot more than handball. In generally, it could be 2 to 3 times more if we speak about the distance. And I think if we think about that in sessions or in like games, we know that that type of load stimulate um, um, aerobic capacity a lot compared to handball. We were playing on a smaller pitch with not that intensity work in terms of running, and that's why we need to add more of that in sessions after the handball session. And also in contrast to the context, because we are playing, like for example, a championship, we have 9 games on 18 or 18 to 19 days, which is crazy in terms of cope with the overall load. So that's what's more like a physical thing that maybe we need to add that more in terms of coping with all the load. I think it's more important to develop those qualities since we don't have squads that are double, that are 14, 15 really, really sharp players. Maybe we have 7 or 8 players, then we need to have better capacity to tolerate all this. In terms of the more planning way or the philosophy, I think the football is better on this topic that we are spoken about today. That starting from the sport, they are better to just manipulate distances, areas, and so on, compared to handball, which is more tougher to switching like areas because we don't have lines that we can switch and goals. If we are putting a goal on the like in the half of the pitch, we also need to have lines. So it's not like easy. So I think football is more far away from us there because they are better on knowing what type of drills that are hitting those targets. In handball, we need to just guess every time because we don't have that type of system. And that one is also going over to the differences between handball and football is that because of this that we know more about certain drills or areas, they are better to understand the periodization, I think, because they knowing certain ways of certain drills in football and how that's related to physical qualities. In handball, we're just guessing and we don't know what type of drills that are hitting those targets that we want to emphasize. That's why we just isolated more. And in the other hand, handball is therefore more culture better on physical training. I think so. If we just make a gray zone or so. A challenge for club versus national team. If I speak from the national team aspects, I think there's a realization there that when you have players, you cannot solving problems in that terms of sense in physical qualities. You need to be sharper in communicate with the clubs. I think one common theme or one thing that is vital in terms of that one is that when we as coaches communicate, we don't communicate with the players in the first hand. We should communicate with the clubs because the club are practicing and they are owner of the player. If me as a coach spoke to the player first, I think there will be some misinterruptions or misunderstanding of things that we want to emphasize, and the club can think that we are trying to force the player to do stuff that the club doesn't want to emphasize. So I think the most problem or the challenge is the communication with the clubs, and the communication there, or what we perceive or what we notice, is not the same that they are perceiving, because we have different environments. We are basically borrowing them for a couple of days, and they have them with them for the whole season. So I think it's much better to if we can be sharper and communicate with the club. And there is also the opposite direction, because I have like been in both areas, is that I would recommend that the national teams will be sharper in communicating with the clubs in that kind of sense as well. And I think that will be easier it will not create any circumstances that we are not aligned in what we are doing. Hope that was a good answer for you, Johan. Otherwise, you can call me later on.
So yeah, thank you all for coming. And Pontus, once again, thank you for your wonderful work and great inspiration to our XPS users.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me on XPS or X or LinkedIn or my contact info.